Have you ever felt like you're fighting invisible battles every single day? You wake up with 1,000 racing thoughts, face crushing pressure at work, doubts about your future, and yet you still need to keep pushing forward as if nothing is happening. Most people live their entire lives feeling overwhelmed, reactive, constantly at the mercy of their circumstances. They let fear make their decisions. They let doubt control their actions. They surrender their power to everything and everyone around them. But what if I told you there's a mindset capable of transforming all of this? A way of thinking and acting that makes you unshakable in the face of any challenge. A mental framework so powerful that when you truly embody it, people will sense something different about you. Something that commands respect, something that intimidates weakness itself. Imagine standing on a mist-shrouded field at dawn, the air thick with the metallic scent of dew-soaked earth and distant pine. Your heart thunders, yet your breath is steady as stone. Across from you, an opponent grips his sword, eyes flickering with the terror of legends whispered in every dojo from Kyoto to Edo. This is no mere duel. It is a collision of souls, where one flicker of hesitation means death. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of a true master of resilience. Miyamoto Musashi, a legendary warrior who didn't just win over 60 duels, but learned to conquer the most difficult enemy of all, himself. If you clicked on this video, it's because you know you need to go beyond where you are. You want mental strength, discipline, purpose, and that's exactly what you're about to discover. Miyamoto Musashi might seem like just an ancient name from Japanese history, but behind that name lies one of the greatest examples of mental strength and self-discipline the world has ever known. Born in 1584, amid the blood-soaked chaos of the Sengoku period, a time when warlords clashed like titans and the ground itself seemed to drink the life of the fallen, Musashi entered the world in a humble village in Harima province. Japan was fracturing, alliances shattered overnight, and survival demanded more than a sharp blade. It required a fortress within. At just 13 years old, he fought his first real duel and won, slaying a seasoned samurai named Arima Kihei with a technique forged not in years of formal training, but in the raw forge of necessity. Picture the boy, barely reaching his opponent's shoulder, yet his eyes burned with a focus that turned the world into slow motion. From that moment, he embarked on a journey that would make him a living legend, wandering the roads of a nation in turmoil, challenging masters under cherry, while other samurai focused solely on perfecting their sword techniques, repeating kata until muscles screamed and calluses bled. Musashi was building something far more powerful, an unbreakable mental framework. In the flickering light of temple lanterns, he pondered not just strikes, but the voids between them, the breath before the clash. Musashi wasn't just an unbeatable samurai known for never losing a single combat among more than 60 duels, a record that defies probability, where even one misstep could end in oblivion. He was also a profound strategist, a philosopher, and an artist. His reflections were immortalized in the famous Book of Five Rings, penned in a cave on Mount Iwato in his final years, where he doesn't just teach combat techniques but reveals principles about how to live with purpose, clarity, and inner mastery. What's fascinating is that Musashi often won his duels before they even began. His reputation for mental toughness was so legendary that many opponents would forfeit rather than face him, bowing out with excuses of illness or sudden obligations, their pride crumbling under the weight of his gaze. This wasn't just about skill with a sword. It was about the aura of absolute confidence and unshakable resolve that he projected, like a storm cloud gathering inevitability. In one famed encounter at Ganryu Island in 1612, he arrived late deliberately, rowing against the current to exhaust his rival Sasaki Kojiro psychologically, then wielded an oar carved into a bokken longer than a standard blade, turning disadvantage into dominance. Instead of simply following the traditions of his time, Musashi broke patterns, created his own fighting style, the Niten Ichiryu wielding two swords in harmony, a duality symbolizing balance between chaos and order, and proved that true mastery goes far beyond the sword. He became the archetype of the warrior who conquers first within himself to then conquer the world. A professor of psychology at Harvard University notes that individuals who develop this level of inner mastery often display what researchers call psychological resilience, the ability to maintain cognitive function and emotional stability under extreme pressure. What Musashi discovered centuries ago, modern neuroscience is now proving. Mental strength can be developed and strengthened like a muscle, with brain scans revealing thicker prefrontal cortices in those who train their minds relentlessly. But what exactly does it mean to have a monster mindset? We're not talking about aggression or brutality, but rather an unshakable mental strength, one that is born from discipline, absolute focus, and the ability to remain steady when everything around you seems to be crumbling. Think about the last time you faced a really difficult situation. Maybe it was a confrontation at work, a financial crisis, or a personal loss. How did you react? Most people panic, make emotional decisions, or completely shut down. But what if I told you that these moments of crisis are actually your greatest opportunities to build mental strength? Musashi embodied this mindset. He didn't expect life to be easy. He became stronger with each difficulty. He understood that adversity wasn't something to avoid. It was something to embrace as a teacher, like a Zen master finding enlightenment in the strike of a staff. Having a monster mindset means looking at challenges with the eyes of someone who asks, "What did this come to teach me?" It's transforming pain into fuel, discomfort into growth, and fear into strategy. Here's the thing that most people don't understand. Fear isn't your enemy. Weakness isn't your enemy. Your enemy is allowing these things to control your actions. Instead of avoiding suffering, you face it head-on with courage and presence, standing in the rain of arrows not with defiance alone, but with a quiet knowing that the storm passes. This type of mindset is rare but possible. And when you develop it, it doesn't matter if you're in a boardroom facing a business crisis, dealing with a family problem, or fighting an internal war. You remain calm, lucid, and determined. Because the monster isn't the one who screams, it's the one who doesn't back down. It's the person who others look at and think there's something different about them. Something I can't quite put my finger on, but I respect it. A researcher from Stanford's neuroscience department has found that individuals who practice this type of mental conditioning actually show measurable changes in brain structure, particularly in areas associated with emotional regulation and stress response. The brain literally rewires itself to handle pressure better, turning potential breakdowns into breakthroughs. Miyamoto Musashi didn't just leave victories in his wake. He left principles, ideas that, although born on the battlefield amid the cries of the wounded and the silence of the slain, are perfectly applicable to modern life. And this is where the monster mindset is truly built. When you transform these principles into daily action, the monster mindset takes root, not as an abstract ideal, but as a living force, pulsing through your veins like the rhythm of a taiko drum in the dead of night. These are the stones Musashi laid in the riverbed of his life, each one smoothed by the rush of battles won and scars earned. Drawn from the depths of his Book of Five Rings, they whisper across centuries, urging us to forge our own path amid the tempests of today. Let us step into them now, one by one, feeling their weight, their truth, as if we too stand on that bloodied earth, sword in hand, soul alight. Principle 1. The way is in training. The first principle is direct and powerful. The way is in training. For Musashi, each day was an opportunity to improve. He didn't train just to defeat an opponent, but to continuously surpass himself. Imagine him in the hush of pre-dawn, under a sky bruised with fading stars, swinging his blades through forms repeated until the air hummed with motion, not for glory, but for the quiet alchemy of self. But here's what most people get wrong about training. They think it's only about the big moments, the intense sessions, the dramatic breakthroughs. Musashi understood that mastery is built in the mundane moments, in the repetition of fundamentals, in showing up even when you don't feel like it, when the winter frost bites at your joints or the summer sun blisters your resolve. This means that today you need to see your routine as a practice field. Every small task, every repetition, every corrected mistake, all of this is part of the way. If you want to be excellent at something, you can't depend on motivation, but on discipline. Think about this. Musashi practiced sword movements thousands of times, not because he was bad at them, but because he understood that excellence is a daily habit, not a one-time achievement. In the chaotic sprawl of the Sengoku era, where daimyo rose and fell like cherry petals in a gale, he honed his Nitten Ichi-rai not in lavish dojos, but on dusty roadsides and fog-veiled mountains, turning every step into a lesson in endurance. Daily practice is the most concrete way to shape your future. Don't wait to feel inspired. Start. By repeating, you evolve. Every day you skip training is a day your competitors get ahead. Every day you show up is a day you separate yourself from the masses who quit when things get difficult. A sports psychology professor from UCLA explains that elite performers across all fields share this exact trait. They view every day as an opportunity for deliberate practice regardless of their emotional state or external circumstances. The difference between professionals and amateurs isn't talent, it's consistency. And in Musashi's world, consistency wasn't optional, it was survival. He once dueled a monk named Shishido Baiken, a master of the sickle and chain, in a clash that tested not just steel but spirit. Baiken's weapon whipped like a serpent, yet Musashi, through relentless training, saw the arc before it struck, parrying with a calm that bordered on the divine. This is the spiritual fire of the principle, training as a path to presence, where the body becomes an extension of the enlightened mind, echoing the Zen koans that shaped the Ronin soul. Principle 2. Understand damage and benefit in all things. The second principle is more subtle, but equally transformative. Understand the damage and benefit in all things. Musashi never struck without purpose. Every action was calculated. He knew that even a victory could be dangerous, drawing the envy of rivals or the ire of lords, and that certain defeats could teach more than 1,000 triumphs. Picture him in the aftermath of the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, a pivotal clash that birthed the Tokugawa shogunate. At 16, he fought on the losing side, spared execution not by luck, but by the strategic humility to vanish into the shadows, emerging wiser, his scars a map of calculated risks. This is where most people fail in life. They make decisions based on immediate gratification rather than long-term consequences. They choose the easy path over the right path. They prioritize feeling good in the moment over doing good for their future. Musashi approached every decision like a chess master, always thinking 3 moves ahead, much like the go boards favored by samurai, where black and white stones wove fates in silence. He understood that sometimes you need to lose a battle to win the war. Sometimes you need to accept short-term pain for long-term gain. This teaches us to act with consciousness. Before deciding, think, does this bring me closer to or further from what I want? Does this choice strengthen me or sabotage me? Is this action building the person I want to become? Or is it keeping me trapped in who I've always been? In a world full of distractions, knowing what to avoid is as important as knowing what to pursue. Social media, toxic relationships, time-wasting activities. These might feel harmless in the moment, but they're slowly eroding your mental strength like termites in the beams of a once mighty fortress. Living with strategy is living with power. A behavioral economist from MIT has documented how successful decision-makers consistently apply this type of cost-benefit analysis, not just to financial choices, but to every aspect of their lives, from relationships to daily habits. They understand that every choice is either building them up or breaking them down. In Musashi's era, Bushido demanded this discernment. A hasty alliance could mean honor preserved or a head on a pike. Today, it means pausing before that midnight scroll from feeds that stir envy, or severing ties that drain the spirit, reclaiming the energy for pursuits that echo eternity. Principle 3. Perceive what cannot be seen. The third principle seems almost spiritual, but is extremely practical. Perceive what cannot be seen. Musashi didn't win just through strength. He won by reading the environment, the energy, the intention of others. This is intuition, sensitivity refined by experience, by the subtle shift in a leaf before the wind howls. In his duel with the Yoshioka clan in 1604, facing multiple foes in Kyoto's pine groves, he sensed their formation's flaw not through sight alone, but through the hush of their breaths, the tremor in a drawn sleeve, dispatching them with strikes that seemed prophetic. But let's be clear, this isn't mystical nonsense. This is about developing your situational awareness to a level where you can sense things others miss. It's about reading body language, picking up on subtle cues, understanding the unspoken dynamics in any situation. Most people go through life on autopilot, completely oblivious to the signals around them. They miss opportunities because they're not paying attention. They walk into conflicts because they can't read the room. They make poor decisions because they're only seeing the surface level. In your daily life, this means being present. It means perceiving when a conversation requires silence instead of response, when a path requires pause and not speed. It means learning to read between the lines of the world, of people, and of yourself. When you develop this skill, you start to see patterns everywhere. You notice when someone is lying before they even finish speaking. You sense when a business deal is about to go wrong. You feel when a relationship is heading toward problems. This gives you a massive advantage in every area of life. A professor of cognitive science at Oxford has found that individuals who develop this kind of situational awareness show enhanced activity in brain regions associated with pattern recognition and predictive processing. Essentially, they become better at seeing what others miss. They're not psychic, they're just more observant. For Musashi, steeped in the no-mind mushin of Zen, this perception was the bridge between mortal and masterful, a quiet revolution against the ego's clamor, turning the battlefield into a temple of insight. Principle 4. Adaptability. Finally, one of the most striking traits of his philosophy, adaptability. Musashi said that the same technique doesn't win all battles. He knew when to change posture, style, even rhythm. In his iconic showdown with Sasaki Kojiro, he didn't cling to orthodoxy. He improvised with a boat oar as his weapon, its length disrupting the swordsman's precise school, turning the tide on sun-dappled waves. And this is perhaps one of the greatest lessons for our times. In our rapidly changing world, where algorithms shift overnight and empires of industry crumble like sandcastles, resisting change is the fastest path to stagnation. If something isn't working, change it. If a plan failed, redesign it. The mistake isn't in falling, but in insisting on what doesn't evolve. A researcher studying organizational psychology at Wharton has observed that the most resilient leaders share this exact characteristic. They treat every setback as data for recalibration rather than as a personal failure. Musashi embodied this fluidity, wandering as a Muja Ronin free from clan ties, unbound by rigid forms. His life a testament to the river that carves canyons not by force, but by yielding and flowing. In embracing adaptability, we honor the courage to unlearn, the spirituality of surrender that births true self-mastery, surprising even the staunchest traditions with its quiet power. Now that you understand the principles, it's time to bring this mindset to the most challenging battlefield of all, real life. Because having a monster mindset isn't just something beautiful to talk about, it's something you live every day, in the details, in the breath between heartbeats, in the choices no one sees. The difference between knowing these principles and embodying them is the difference between watching a workout video and actually going to the gym. Knowledge without application is just entertainment in your work. Think about your job, the pressure, deadlines, demands, maybe even insecurities. Most people react on impulse, drown in anxiety, or freeze in the face of challenge. They complain about their circumstances, blame their boss, or make excuses for why they can't succeed. But Musashi didn't react. He responded with strategy, with presence, with mastery. When faced with a difficult opponent, he didn't panic. He analyzed, adapted, and executed. Imagine a boardroom at 7:47 a.m., fluorescent lights humming like a swarm of anxious insects. The quarterly report is bleeding red. Your boss's voice slices the silence, eyes narrowing. Most people shrink. You breathe. You perceive the unspoken, the fear behind the anger, the need for control beneath the demand. You don't defend. You don't attack. You respond, like Musashi reading the arc of a kusarigama before it leaves the hand. You offer a solution, calm, precise, rooted in the principles. You become the eye of the storm. Applying this mindset to your daily life means being aware of what's under your control. You can't control your boss's mood, but you can control your response. You can't control market conditions, but you can control your preparation. You can't control office politics, but you can control your professionalism. It's acting with precision, not impulse. You become someone who doesn't shake easily because you know where you stand. When others are losing their minds, you're the calm presence that people look to for leadership. A professor of management psychology at Northwestern University found that employees who develop this type of mental resilience are 31% more productive and 37% more likely to receive promotions. They're not necessarily the most talented, but they're the most reliable under pressure. They're the ones who, when the ship is sinking, are already building the raft. In your relationships. Now, think about your relationships. How many times do you enter conflicts because you don't know how to listen, because you don't perceive the moment to step back or speak with wisdom? How often do you let emotions hijack your responses? Musashi read his opponent's movements before they even attacked. You can do the same emotionally, perceiving the signals, listening with attention, avoiding unnecessary wars. Picture a quiet evening. The air is thick with unsaid words. Your partner's voice cracks on a single sentence. Most people counterattack. You pause. You see the tremor in their hand, the flicker in their eyes. You perceive what cannot be seen, the fear of being unseen, the ache of old wounds. You don't win the argument. You win the connection. This means knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. It means understanding that winning an argument often means losing the relationship. It means having the strength to apologize when you're wrong, and the wisdom to set boundaries when you're right. Most relationship conflicts aren't about the surface issue. They're about deeper needs for respect, understanding, or security. When you learn to read these underlying currents, you can address the real problem instead of just treating symptoms. This too is being a warrior. The strongest people aren't those who dominate others. They're those who have mastered themselves enough to bring out the best in others. Like a master swordsman who disarms not with force, but with presence. In personal development, most importantly, apply this to your personal development. You know that fear that stops you from starting something new, that feeling of not being ready, that voice in your head that says you need to wait for the perfect moment, or that you don't have enough experience, or that you might fail. Musashi didn't wait to be ready. He trained while he fought. Every mistake was a lesson. Every difficulty a chance to grow. He understood that readiness is not a prerequisite for action. Action creates readiness. The monster mindset transforms every difficult moment into a training ground. That public speaking opportunity that terrifies you, training ground. That business idea that seems too risky, training ground. That relationship conversation you've been avoiding, training ground. There is no defeat for those who decide to learn from everything. A researcher in developmental psychology at Yale University has tracked individuals over 20-year periods and found that those who embrace challenges as growth opportunities show significantly higher levels of life satisfaction and achievement compared to those who avoid difficulty. They don't just survive, they thrive because they turn the battlefield into a dojo. The daily ritual forged the unbreakable. If you want to embody the monster mindset, you need a daily ritual, simple but powerful, something that sharpens your mind every day, just as Musashi sharpened his sword beneath the moon's cold gaze. But here's the crucial difference between successful people and everyone else. Successful people have systems, not just goals. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on discipline. They don't wait for inspiration. They create it through consistent action. Morning intention. Setting upon waking before you check your phone or get distracted by the noise of the world. Define your intention. What do you want to conquer today? It could be procrastination, fear, fatigue, or a specific challenge you've been avoiding. But don't just think it, write it down. There's something powerful about putting pen to paper. It transforms a vague thought into a concrete commitment, like inscribing a vow on sacred cedar. Strategic action. Then choose one action that symbolizes this commitment. A workout that proves you can push through discomfort. Reading that expands your knowledge. A difficult conversation you've been postponing. Do it with total presence, not just going through the motions. This isn't about being busy, it's about being intentional. Every action should have purpose behind it. Like Musashi's every strike, every breath, every step on the dueling ground. Evening reflection. At the end of the day, review what you learned, where you can improve. Ask yourself, what worked, what didn't, what would I do differently? How did I handle pressure? Did I act like the person I want to become? This isn't just a routine. It's an act of sacred discipline. A warrior doesn't live on autopilot. They live with purpose in every detail. This small ritual repeated day after day shapes something unbreakable within you. A professor of habit formation at Duke University has found that individuals who follow this type of structured daily practice show remarkable improvements in grit, the ability to persevere through long-term challenges. More importantly, they report feeling more in control of their lives and more confident in their ability to handle whatever comes their way. The final truth. Remember, you don't need to live in feudal Japan to be a warrior. The real battle happens inside you every day. Musashi shows us that true strength comes from discipline, strategy, and the courage to face our own fears. By adopting this monster mindset, you begin to shape a life of purpose and transformation. The mind you build today determines the battles you'll win tomorrow. So, tell me in the comments, what battle are you going to win today? If this video inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Until next time, keep your mind sharp and your spirit unshakable. See you in the next video.